to move through your resistance. Even if it means surrender. Surrender is a pretty foreign concept, right, for us. Surrender usually it intones things like defeat, giving up. And God knows we wouldn't want to do any of that, right? We got to hold on to the bitter end. Today, I want you to understand that the ultimate act of willingness is surrender. And that it is only when we are gently yielding to life, just as it is, right here, right now, that we are able to live a life of clarity, of focus, of ease and grace. Anyone want to live that kind of life?
I do.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe I was alone. Anybody want to live that kind of life?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought you guys liked disease and unfocused and chaos. I was beginning to wonder if I was alone. Well, I hope today that you will join me on a journey on the path to living in willingness. So I wasn't here with you last week because I was on retreat with one of my favorite people, Martha Creek, in a program called the Extraordinary Leadership Program. And what I found in that time that I was with her is that there are still a lot of areas in my life where I think I know everything. Now, I know that no one relates to this. I know how things should go. I know how things should be done. And I definitely know how it should all turn out. Yeah? Oh, I'm so glad to know I'm not alone. What I found out is that that's hell. That's actually the opposite of clarity, focus, ease, and grace. In fact, it is willfulness at its finest. And the solution is really simple. Not necessarily easy, but simple. The solution is surrender. Surrendering to 3 little words. I don't know. Now, I know for some of you that's a difficult pill to swallow, because it certainly was for me. I don't know. But the truth is, I really don't. I don't have any idea why you are here. I have no idea what you should be doing. What's your lesson to learn? I don't even know what my lesson is to learn. So how could I possibly know the way things should turn out? How could I possibly know what anyone else should do, even most of the time what I should do? I just don't know. An interesting thing about not knowing is when we don't know, it begins to pry our minds open. You see, when we know everything, our focus is about this wide. But when we don't know, it pries the mind open to limitless possibilities. When we can yield to the not knowing, we have a chance to discover what is truly, truly possible. And so the crowbar to pry open our minds, I have found, is in asking the question. In asking the question. I've been reading a book called Mastering Life's Energy by Maria Nemeth. And in that book, she says that our life is shaped by the questions we ask. Our life is shaped by the questions we ask. Now, Unity's third principle tells us that we shape our reality through the thoughts that we hold in mind. So it makes sense to me that if you want to shape a different life, if you want to shape a different reality, you might want to start questioning your thoughts. And I spent a whole 3 days questioning my thoughts and found out I have a lot of thoughts to question. I'm thinking all the time. I have more thoughts than I ever dreamed possible. Maybe you do too. What I also noticed in the asking of the questions was that I have a lot of thoughts that are value thoughts. I love this. Not so much. I really like this. I don't like that at all. That is so good. That's terrible. And you know what happens when we have those judgment thoughts? We are putting a label on the experience. And an interesting thing about labels is once you label it, you are prone to following the instructions on the label. So let me share with you what that looks like. Before I went on retreat, I took my car in to have the oil changed. When I went back to pick my car up, I got a little report card. And yeah, on that report card, there were several things that needed to be done to my car. Immediately, I labeled the experience as, this is terrible. And then I began to follow the instructions. Why me? Why now? I don't have time for this. Where's the money going to come from? Anybody go down that rabbit hole? Hell, right? Hell. Luckily, it was really hot in hell and I didn't stay there long. I decided instead to surrender to the question. And so I said to myself, is it really terrible? Is that true? Well, no, it's really not true. There are worse things that have happened. I've had an engine blow up before. So no, it really wasn't all that terrible. What was actual and factual? Actual and factual, there is a list of car repairs, none of which, besides my brake light, that needed to be done immediately. And then I realized that I just don't know. I don't know where the money's going to come from. I don't know when I'm going to have time to do it. And it's really okay not to know. Clarity. You see, when we are willing to ask the questions, the heart-centered questions, is it true? And what good can come of this? Suddenly, we have clarity. Clarity is simply seeing the truth, seeing what truly matters. So the truth of that situation is, I have a battery that's weak. I'm understanding it's really cold here in the winter. I'm thinking I don't want to go out in January and my car not start. So was it a blessing to find out that I needed a new battery? You betcha. This is what happens when we can surrender, when we can yield to life just the way it is. We gain clarity. And with clarity also comes the ability to focus. You see, when we are narrow-minded, when we are stuck in knowing everything, there are no options. And we're all tied up in worrying. Now, I know there's no one in this congregation that worries about a thing, right? I didn't think so. How often do we get caught up in worrying about what's going to happen next? What's going to happen tomorrow? What if it doesn't work out? Worrying about the future. Martha Creek teaches us that the future is only imagined. You see, we can't possibly know what's going to happen 5 minutes from now, 20 minutes from now, much less tomorrow, next year. And it is when we live in this imagination that fear often resides. And fear can paralyze us. Focus, according to Maria Nemeth, is all about your attention and energy being directed to your heart's call. When we are standing in fear, we can't hear our heart, much less take action that will propel us forward to answering our heart's call. She also tells us that in order to find focus, one of the most important questions we can ask ourselves is, what question is my life the answer to? I love that question. What question is my life the answer to? Because that is your heart's call. I remember when I was first called to ministry, I immediately started to project, how am I going to get there? How am I going to pay for that? How am I going to take care of the kids? How is that all going to work? And when I got caught up in future thinking, I became paralyzed with fear. And suddenly, there were 100 reasons at least why I couldn't go to seminary. And I didn't. But something happened when that call came back around. I said yes. And this time I said yes to not knowing. I had no idea where Seminary for Unity was even at, much less how I was going to get there. But I said yes. Yes to not knowing how it was all going to work out. And instead, I asked the heart-centered question, what can I do right now? What can I do that will take me one step closer? And step by step, with a lot of willingness and a lot of faith, I became a minister. Imagine what would happen if you could let go of your need to know how it all works out. If you could surrender how and yield to the question, what can I do right this moment? If you could take all of your energy and all of your focus and direct it towards the answer instead of trying to figure out the how. That would be clarity and focus in your life. And then there's a life of ease. We don't know a lot about ease. Have you noticed? People say we are like the most stressed out nation in the world. Everywhere you turn, people are uptight, stressed out, and diseased, right? We don't know anything about ease. A lot of that comes, I believe, from this fear that we have that we're going to do it wrong, that we're going to make the wrong choice, that we're going to say it the wrong way, that we're going to somehow make a mistake. And you know, the truth of the matter is, there's no way to do it wrong. There's no such thing as a wrong choice. No such thing. It's impossible to be wrong. I'm going to give you an example. I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to think about one regret that you have. One regret. And then I want you to ask yourself, what have I learned from that experience? What did I learn? It could be that what you learned was contrast. This is definitely what I do not want. Maybe you learned to slow down and make different decisions. Maybe you learned to change your behavior. Now also ask yourself, how did this experience shape my life? How did this experience that I'm regretting shape my life? Did it make you stronger? Did it teach you perseverance? Give you strength? Courage? At the very least, I would imagine that you gained some wisdom. Open your eyes. There is no wrong choice. Just different choices. There's no way to make a mistake, because even when we stumble and fall, we become more and more of who we were meant to be. Imagine if you could live your life knowing that you couldn't do it wrong? What would you do? How would you push the limits? What chances would you take? How would you live your life more fully if you weren't afraid of doing it wrong? Certainly, there would be more ease in your life. When we yield to life as it is, when we take time to ask those heart-centered questions, we find clarity, focus, and life with ease. And then there's grace. Maria Nemeth describes grace as continuous appreciation, living spiritual principles, always aware that all is well. Now, there were many times in my life where I did not think all was well. In fact, I thought it was crap. But you know what? I'm here, right now. Clearly, all was well, even if I didn't think so, because I'm here, and I'm the person that I am today. All is well. Grace shows up for me when I realize that I don't always get what I want when I want it, which is usually right now. And yet, I become open to receiving and to seeing that I have in every moment of my life, to this very second, gotten every single thing that I needed. Everything that I needed to expand, to grow, to become who I really am. Not always what I want, but always what I need. Always what I need. Grace happens when we realize that there's a blessing. There's a blessing in all of it. And grace happens when we yield graciously, when we yield to receiving the blessing. When we are willing to give, when we are willing to yield, to surrender to the not knowing, willing to yield to a different reality, we have an opportunity to live a life that is full of clarity, focus, ease, and grace. Many of you know that I have had some experience in 12-step programs. And one of my favorite passages comes from the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's called The Promises. What I know today is that those promises are true for everyone. And that those promises point the way to surrender. What surrender is all about. And what it is that we receive when we are willing to yield to life just as it is instead of pushing against it. Just being right here where it is in the moment. I want to read that to you. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook on life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations that used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that source within us is doing through us what we thought we could not do ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes slowly, sometimes quickly. The ultimate act of willingness is surrender, yielding to life as it is, ceasing to fight anyone or anything, and standing in the not knowingness, asking heart-centered questions. Is this true? Is this helpful? What's factual? What's the blessing? When we can yield to life as life is, we know a new freedom. A freedom to live life with clarity, with focus, with ease, and with grace. I ask you again, is this the kind of life you want to live?
Yes.
Yes. Then surrender and live in the question. Namaste.
Namaste.